Hello everybody. This is going to be an extremely exciting video. This is pretty much after Black Friday Cyber Monday, how we essentially generated 751,000 in just 4 days. So we had a very successful Black Friday Cyber Monday. The craziest part, it's right now Wednesday, same week where Cyber Monday is, so December 4th. And yesterday we still pulled in $187,000 and today we're already over $110,000. Our strategy is continuously to play out and I'm excited to present this video to you guys. Based off of multiple conversations I had this week, here's some real-time problems essentially that I've seen in some direct-to-consumer brands that I've been speaking to within the last few weeks. These being the core 6 problems, which is ad cost spikes, 2 to 3 normal CPMs, right? We know they're going to increase due to higher competition, a lot of ad spend filtering in during this seasonal point for like Meta and Google specifically, a bit of TikTok. Email delivery drops as inbox providers filter heavy promotional value. This was a big one for us, and I've seen it actually across the board amongst different brand owners where open rates decline. And it makes sense because if you look at your inbox right now, just slammed with Black Friday offers. So you're essentially like more volume would definitely solve this problem versus like quality of the email. It's more so that your email was getting buried due to these other brands, right? Creative fatigue, this wasn't a problem for us just because, based off our strategy, we know how to navigate it really well. So not much, but I know a couple brand owners did struggle with this issue here. Attribution became murky with multiple touch points and cross-device shopping behavior. So tracking campaign effectiveness accurately was challenging for a lot of these brand owners. Competition intensifies, of course. Everyone's dropping money down. This is the best time for them to either clear up their inventory or make some money. That was actually another big one for these brand owners, is that they're trying to manage these multiple platforms like TikTok, Google, and Meta, and just to understand really what's working was a big struggle for these guys. That being said, here is what we essentially did for our Black Friday Cyber Monday. So our initial goal for Black Friday Cyber Monday was essentially outperform last year's period by 20% and over in revenue, because we knew if we performed 20% over in revenue, the bottom line was naturally increasing as long as we're meeting our cost to acquire customer metrics so that we can continue to maintenance that performance. Kind of road mapping what that looked like. This is how we kind of build our stores. We're pretty much manning the paid advertising sector here and creating assets like long form landers, split test landers, advertorials, product pages, opt-in pages, lead forms, listicles, optimizing cart page and bundle pages, and then the orchestration. So you have this section here, which is emails and SMS. Like, this structure works very well when we go to a seasonal high point, and this is throughout the year, not just Black Friday Cyber Monday. This is just intensifies like rocket fuel when we're leveraging, okay, all the split tests we conducted within this year, what was the best performers? So we're extracting our best performers and we're placing it in this time period, which we know works really well. So getting into it, the way we were looking at performance is, okay, what did we experience in Q4 of 2023? And then I'm looking at the week over week cadence of performance, 228, 219, etc. Week 4, this is where Black Friday came into play. Essentially, it popped up on the 24th to the 26th, I think, Black Friday, which we did about 700K, which was pretty good versus the previous period that was a 65% lift. Then as you can see here too, like these specific dates. So the week 4 was pretty enticing. The week 3 was secondary enticing. We see this increment. Week 1 was low, week 2 was low, and then week 3 we see a pickup, and then week 4 we see definitely a pickup, this including Black Friday. And then where you see Black Friday Cyber Monday, we pulled in about $519,000 within this period, and then week 5 being about 450, give or take, the after period, which is not bad in comparison to week 3. So now when we're looking at our performance for week in 24 versus what we've seen in 23, the cool thing here was week 1 we have 102, week 2 353. What's the biggest difference here versus week 1, right? Because some of you would be like, oh, you underperformed by 100K. Well, the cool thing here is we didn't spend as much. We made a prediction. Our prediction was, well, from last year we saw a low period of 228 to 28, right? We were spending pretty similar to what we were spending up here, but we didn't know what the future would look like, right? So we printed 228, and then we saw the lift in week 3 and week 4. Interesting enough, in 24, this was very similar. We just spent less in week 1, whereas week 2, we started to hyper lift the budget, because what we did different here that we didn't do in this week 2 is we started really compounding a lot into our email list, focusing a strategy into lead generation and congruency with some conversion campaigns. Whereas when we hit week 3, we did about 553, right? Really engaging and pushing on conversion campaigns at this point, because we saw such a lift in 23 at 442 versus the 2. That's a 2x difference, right? So if we anticipated a 2x difference, that's kind of what we expect. Like is essentially almost what happened here, where this is at 350 and this is at 550. That's a 200K difference. It's a very similar lift. If you look at when you scale, obviously, right, we see dwindling ROI, but it's a higher bottom line, typically higher ROI, higher bottom line, depending on the brand, of course. We predicted this to happen and it happened. Where then week 4 came in fruition, we did about 562, which held. Although here we see a difference, but still we had consistency at play for week 4. So then when we eventually hit week 5, and granted, here's October 27th through the 2nd, kind of the first week of November 3rd to 9th. So this would be second week, which is not bad difference. 4 was the 17th to 23. And then here really entering that realm of Black Friday here is essentially what lifted up this metric point. And then, Black Friday, Cyber Monday in 23 here being 24th to the 27th. Whereas now week 5 for us, we did almost $1 million from 24th to 30th at 920 for a 64% lift, which is actually phenomenal against last year. Now, if Black Friday, Cyber Monday fell more within November, this week would have been far greater, but we see it here. And then Black Friday, Cyber Monday, this including December 1st, about 751. While we're still performing today, being December 4th, we're still seeing desirable numbers due to the specific strategy we're pushing out. And now, if you guys have any questions in regards to that, please drop them in a comment, which is going to be setting the vision, right? This is the goal on how we're playing our cards, which is going to be hyper important that we're doing this planning, which leads into crafting an irresistible offer. When we're setting up a strategy for this time period, it's important, going back to this chart here, we're conducting an analysis of what has happened, what's our period, what's the cost to acquire a customer from 23 within this week, and this week. And we're doing a compare and contrast, because this is going to be our crystal ball to determine how we're going to take action moving into, let's just say, November into December. What's the anticipated cost to acquire customer within this time period in 24 versus 23? And then really evaluating the landscape that we're playing in now in 24. The way I would ask questions, or I would highly even recommend prompting Cloud. Cloud does an excellent job, going back and forth with you on like breaking down data, and you can import data from like different sources. So you can extract from Facebook or Hyros, even Shopify, and it can help you break down components of predictions. What's your ideal cost to acquire a customer? Where should you optimize your CPAs, etc.? What we did was this year, as we tested a number of different offers, what we extracted from all these tests based off of our top performing assets was bundling became the best performer. And this actually happened in September around Labor Day, which we had an explosive amount. We did about 3.3 million that month, which was our best performer. So this moving into Black Friday, essentially the strategy there was this works so well, we can just reintroduce it now. But the benefit would be, how can we make it 10% better? Which we just added one additional item, doesn't have cost of good on the item was barely to none. So it didn't influence like the net margins on the product itself, where it was just 10% better at that point. Hence why we saw such success, and we're still rocking and rolling. Next up, we have the creative strategy. So what type of creatives perform best? Our strategy push out. So we have Meta and Google. So essentially what we did in regards to cold, what we identified performing really well was video ads, because one, this particular product is a higher AOV item. There's so much an image could do. If it's a supplement offer or supplement or skincare, images work really well from what we've seen, right? Because it doesn't take that much to understand, and especially depending on the strategy rollout for skincare supplement, they'll go to an advertorial or listicle to essentially educate the prospect how they differ. Where our product videos done really well, and the specific videos, and we're in the home and garden space, by the way. These specific videos that worked really well were DIY influencers, and then just cultivating, there's multiple groups that love our product, so they're producing videos, and we're essentially extracting those videos and just making ads out of them. They perform extremely great on code advertising, where then we leverage the images and videos, performing videos, retargeting videos, and then images does really well in the realm of warm traffic after they're being so engaged in our content. Essentially, this combination here is crushing it for us. There's more to this, but in simple terms, these done really well for us. And then same thing with remarketing, just recapturing a lot of this upper traffic, where we spend about 60 to 80% on cold up here, where we have a nice recapture strategy. And then Google predominantly created for a recapture strategy, where we noticed that a lot of people who engaged with us via Meta, Facebook, they would essentially try to look us up on Google or Bing. What we did was we set up PMAX, shop campaigns, YouTube retargeting, demand gen for cold that you can set up here or search. that can help filter this traffic via the warm sector for Google. But this combination right here, we're talking about 9x return. Very dominant play. So I just set it off here as an advertising technique, leveraging time testing, where we begin our promotions earlier within the month to begin capturing segments of the market while most brands aren't pushing their Black Friday, Cyber Monday promotions yet. This creates more opportunities for sales. Increase budgets within the week of Black Friday, Cyber Monday to begin cutting through the market noise to keep as top of mind as possible with a bulletproof email sequence in place. And in the final week, so this is why we're seeing really good results after Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Right now it's Wednesday. We're already 110. We're expected to do 200K today. Yesterday being 187K that we've done. This is a big reason why. This last bullet right here. We don't pause our Black Friday, Cyber Monday campaigns after Black Friday, Cyber Monday. We aim to capture the following week leverage, last chance, urgency, fear of loss, via ads, emails to help people make a buying decision brings in great results. Because think about it. A lot of brands still have this old mindset of let's launch out either the week of Black Friday, Cyber Monday or Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And then you have like those bigger brands or more aware brands that'll do a little earlier as we're starting to see that landscape really transition to brands launching 2 weeks in advance or sometimes 3 weeks in advance or sometimes the end of October. So for us, the fact that we launch earlier in the beginning of the month, we're capturing the segments of the market from the early buyers to the mid buyers to people are ready to shop Black Friday, Cyber Monday because maybe that they're going to do their bulk shopping. But then most importantly, the end or afterwards, those late shoppers or the ones that I forgot or maybe coming back from traveling, that's a great opportunity where your competition paused their ads or reduced ad spend because of the promotion that they ran. Let me go back to time testing here. Like what I mean by time testing in addition to that is we like testing 3 weeks in advance. 3 weeks has been the bread and butter cadence. Right now, like for this specific play, we're doing about 4 weeks just to see the landscape difference amongst what we did last year, just because we're aiming for a specific goal for the whole entire year for this brand. I would highly recommend time testing, so you can capture these segments of the market versus missing out on so much opportunity, focusing yourself on a very aggressive time point, being either the week of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, or just Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So Meta was a dominant cold prospecting source for fresh eyes and new buyers, great for scaling and grabbing more prospects into your paid media strategy, including backends like emails and SMS. Whereas Google and Bing, great source to recapture and target demographic filtering from Meta. This usually yields high returns on these platforms due to benefiting from Meta's traffic. But with that said, not the greatest scaling source for increased purchases. And what I mean by that is I'm not talking about Google search. Although understand these things are being fueled by people actively searching or mistakenly trying to look for one item and then your ad pops up and then there is the curiosity sake of that and they'll click on the ad and it'll maybe purchase. But the buyer is more actively seeking. Or going back to Meta versus Google, if you're really feeling Meta from our demographic of what we've seen, and we see this amongst a couple of brands, a lot of them filter into Google and they will search you there. And this is why having a really strong capturing system like PMax, shopping, display banners, etc. would be extremely powerful for you, where you don't necessarily need to scale Google the way you would scale Meta. Meta would fuel so much more people and leverage, where if you try to scale Google to 200K, it's more challenging. You're going to see dwindling returns, where I challenge you, if you are doing this, go to 100K and assess whether the ROI is greater and compares to you spending 200K versus you just spending 100K and just seeing more upside. And then you're just now fueling Meta more because you know that's just going to bring more money in the ecosystem versus the main platforms. Think of it as an ecosystem. Going back to this, when we're pushing traffic, we're not dependent on one ecosystem. We're not just dependent on Meta or Facebook. Like we're dependent on how everything works as a whole. Like, okay, I know Meta does this, and then it's going to allow Google to do this, and then TikTok is going to magically arise because of this type of orchestration. Hyros, like us using a tool called Hyros, which helps us doing tracking amongst your ecosystem. So like the correlation between Meta ads, Google ads, TikTok ads, Bing, organic sales, and your email and SMS ecosystem, it ties everything together to see more buyer behaviors and how they navigate your ecosystem like Meta, Facebook, and then how they become a purchaser. Now, if you have a team, this is essentially behind the scenes, right? Like what happens? Like how do you manage such a protocol? You have dedicated team members to take responsibility within sections of ensuring we have proper execution, such as follows. When we're preparing our assets for the seasonal point, especially if you have prehistoric data and you know your buyer highs within the year versus the buyer lows, ensure that that strategy implementation, whether you're the marketing strategist, CMO, or the marketing director, whoever's planning the bigger plan, the 3,000 foot view strategy, you're reciprocating it downwards for the implementation implementation, which is going to be the email team. You're responsible to get these materials out by this date so we're prepared for the 3-week promotional launch. Also having the urgencies prepared. Same thing with the media buying team. Are they prepared? Do they know their budget? What they need to spend? Did they do their projection analysis? Are they asking questions in preparation for the seasonal point? And the same thing with the creative team. Do they have the right assets? Did the media buyers send them top performing creative so we can put banners on them? Do we have images prepared for our retargeting strategy and implementations X, Y, and Z? Which then ensures our KPIs, time, dates, and budgets are properly documented in advance for a smoother execution strategy within the time period we're setting to do this promotional push. The tool that's going to help support you and the team, like I said, you're gonna once again, you're gonna hear me say this so many times: Hyros, or a tracking tool. Doesn't have to be Hyros. It can be any tracking tool. Or maybe you have yourself coordinated enough and it's narrow enough, or for the smaller brands and you're not launching so many campaigns the way we do, right? Because we spend a lot of money. I will still get it, especially if you're spending $10,000 a month. Hyros is going to help you optimize your ad dollars usage. So here it is, the magic, although I showed it in the beginning slide. But yeah, 751 in 4 days. Killer with a 45% increase. Now this is an 8-figure brand. 45% increase is phenomenal because knowing that their bottom line also increases, which is really good. The question I'll commonly get is, okay, what's the key highlight, or like what determines success for this level of scale, especially for how our products are sold? Well, our biggest goal is looking at cost to acquire customer, because we know if we can optimize the cost to acquire customer as low as possible while gaining volume, it typically yields us a high ROI anyways. So if I'm looking at two main metrics, is okay, what am I buying customers for in volume, in bulk, and what's the ROI benchmarks that we're reaching? Which, like for us in this product, we want to be above a 6x, because knowing if we're above a 6x, we know that the bottom line and top line are both increasing simultaneously, which is a huge win. But for you, like if you're unaware of what your cost to acquire customers are, I would start there. Like I said, Prompting Cloud would do a phenomenal job on really demonstrating how you can make this as simplistic as can be. And if you guys want me to shoot a video on this, just drop in a comment. I could do that for you guys, but I highly recommend if you're not doing this. Now, what worked? Insights from our Black Friday Cyber Monday campaigns. So based on pulling projections from what happened last year, worked as usual. The same trends we saw last year was similar trends we saw this year, allowing us to spend at the right time and capitalize when the market was hot. A point of improvement. This is going back to the beginning. I'll look to do for December and the following year would be to increase the volume of emails and SMS we're sending out, since this year a ton of emails flooded people's inboxes. Going back to the beginning slide, right? A big problem was if my inbox got flooded, you have to put yourself in the perspective of other people. And also having a tracking tools and seeing the orchestration of how everything's working. Our main platforms like Meta, Google were all flourishing, scaling, but interesting enough, our emails were a little bit lower. Where if I look at yesterday and today being out of Cyber Monday, Black Friday, the emails are actually performing even better, which makes a lot of sense in the perspective of some brands probably paused their strategy because it was probably from Friday to Monday. So now we're starting to see some fruit from the emails and SMS. But learning lesson, I would definitely optimize more volume in emails and SMS, so I can, keep on prioritizing ourselves above everybody else, because there's so much noise filtering in their inboxes. Okay. But here's some advice for fellow D2C brands. Ensure you plan ahead of time and use your best assets and offerings during this period. For everything that you identified that worked best for your brand this year, leverage it during this time. And if you can make it 10% better, I would highly recommend it, especially if you saw a lot of profits in your seasonal high versus seasonal low. Use it here because this is typically a seasonal high, and then you can milk it, which will be in your benefit. But with that being said, guys, in the comment section, share your biggest obstacles that you face this Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and also share your wins. I'm curious to hear the wins that some of you brought in from this time period, which was exciting for us, especially with everything that happened. This is Jeremy Rodriguez. I'll see you next time. And once again, don't forget to drop the like and comment, and we'll take it from there.